Ciao.
How you doing, guys? Today we're going to talk about a new piece of software that's come out from Festo. It's called Festo Automation Suite. And moving forward in this video, I'm going to try to just call it Automation Suite because I've been using Rockwell software for too long, and Factory Automation Suite is a common theme for them. And so I guess I could say if I do a hiccup and call Festo Automation Suite Factory Automation Suite, that's my bad. I'm sorry. So what they're doing with this Festo Automation Suite is combining thoughts of different pieces of software into one combined mash and giving it a new spin on looks, feel, functionality, while trying to maintain the existing original software concepts. So I'm just going to talk real briefly about the different pieces of software here. So close this here. So there is the Festo Automation Suite. I short form everything. There is Codesys. So the existing Festo Automation Suite software, it's version 10 inside of this particular version, and it has the Codesys 3.5.10 from Codesys inside of it. It has this software called Festo Field Device Tool from Festo built into it. And I have some devices shown here. It has Festo Maintenance Tool for the CPX system. In this case, we're dealing with CPX E. In this case, I'll show. Just connect to something here real quick. Finish. So this is a PLC that we can connect to. And then we have a piece of software called Festo Configuration Tool, which is for a variety of pieces of software from Festo. It does like servo drives, vision systems. Let me just get this over here. Basically a variety of different things, but basically the majority of it is, let's see here. So they have a servo pneumatic controller. They've got a bunch of single axis controller or servo controllers or stepper controllers, and then a valve, a bunch of different things. And I'm just going to open this project right here so we can do a comparison here. And while this is opening, if it will respond, which it's not. And I'm going to open up the Festo Automation Suite software while we're doing that. So I'm going to leave the software packages at the bottom of my screen open that you won't see, and come back to them when I need to. Now, what I wanted to show here is overall functionality, and then compare it to all the other software that is being used to replace. So I'm just going to start off by the installation itself. So on the Festo support portal, we have their PLC here. If you go to www.festo.com, so if I just do www.festo.com, hit the enter button, pick your country. I'm just going to go into America here, I'm a true blown Canuck here, and going to here, happy holidays. And where these other two tabs are stemming from are the support download tabs. So I click on here. Actually, that's a nice picture. So I click in here, now I'm here. And you type in the PLC type code, which is the CPX CSE, which is the 4252741, or in this case over here, we've got this right here. So if I just type in automation, it'll come up with this, and I can select it, and I'll get to where I am here. So the version that I have installed is 1036, and it's to deal with, let's just type in a couple different devices. If I can type properly here. So this particular drive right here, this controller, And I'll just duplicate this tab here, and the other one is a CPX-E-EC. I don't know if I'll talk about this, but this is another, basically CPX-E series product is the Festo Automation Suite as well as the CMMT controller. The CMMT controller, if you want to commission a CMMT controller, you use Festo Automation Suite. If you want to commission a CPX ECC, you can use the standalone version of Codesys, or you can use Festo Automation Suite. And depending on the combination with the PLC, you may or may not have to use Festo Automation Suite as well. Because again, right now it's replacing software. The problem right now is that it's new to the market, therefore it's another piece of software until it's completely phasing out everything else. And I don't know what the time frame is for that. So moving on, we've got these different hardware packages here, and if you want to put together this Festo Automation Suite, you have a couple different things here. So you need to install the Festo Automation Suite software. That's the baseline, and you would download this and install it. Then, because you want to work with a CMMT, you would come to the software tab for the CMMT here. You would move down to the find something to do with Festo Automation Suite. There it is. So Festo Automation Suite plugin. So think of Festo Automation Suite as a big shell, and if I click on Install Device Plugins, you'll see here that there are plugins and there are extensions, okay? Similarly, they're the same thing on the website. So if I want to download manually the plugin for the Festo Automation Suite for the CMMT, I would come over here, click on this, download it, and it would download the plugin. I would come into Festo Automation Suite here and download and install this. Alternatively, you can, and you would use this install local file. If I come into here and I want to do it automatically and you're connected to the web, it will go out and search the web to see if there's something new. And if there is something new, you come in here, it would say, hey, there's something new. Over here, you click on install. And similarly, I can click on search for updates. It says everything's up to date. So I'm just going to show you the version numbers. So plugin CMMT 1025, which matches what's on the website here. Then if I'm going too fast, I apologize. You can always pause the video. CPX plugin, that there is the, where is it here? CPXE, that'll be in here. Extension, this Festo Automation Suite extension right here. And what else do we have in there? We've got, oh, the Codesys extension. So you would need right here to match there. That's the CPX plugin. Then the extension for Codesys is there. Basically, it's all here. And finally, there is firmware, which doesn't have an install right now, but basically you come in here, search on the server, and it'll go looking for all the devices that interact with this. They're all in the cloud. You would basically expand one and then say, okay, come over here and click on download. Once it's downloaded, it'll have the local symbol being you've already downloaded it. Again, I would come over here and click on download firmware. It's a similar concept for all these right here. Okay? Okay, what's next? The last thing is the about. So this tells me that 1036 is what I've downloaded. If you hit search with the no updates, so on and so forth. Okay? The next thing here is the repositories. Okay, so we all are probably familiar with Codesys, the standalone version, and now we have Festo Automation Suite. The intention is that Festo Automation Suite and Codesys standalone can be installed on the same PC. Of course, you would select different directories, and they do not conflict with each other. That's the intention. If I have multiple Codesys versions installed, they actually share repositories. So I have, for example, here, let me show you something. So if I go to my local drive and I move into the program files directory here, you'll see here that I've got multiple versions installed in unique directories. That's pretty common for programmers when they have multiple pieces of software, is to not just select defaults while installing, but to select individual directories and installs. What I was trying to say earlier is that when you install these different standalone versions, the installations are separate, but the repositories are shared, meaning, device files, libraries, things like that, they're shared. And what I also wanted to say is that when you install Festo Automation Suite, it has a repository all by itself. So if you were to install in a bunch of libraries and IODD files for IOLink or a bunch of different things, GSDML files that are to do with the standalone version, you have to redo that all over again for Festo Automation Suite, which is a great thing because we want to keep things separate so there's no conflicts, so on and so forth. Another thing worth pointing out is the firmware that I just showed you here. So the original software that this is replacing is what they call Festo Field Device Tool. And if you come into here and double click here, you'll see that I have a repository full of files that are associated with the various hardware that Festo offers. And you come into here, you would select this as downloads and so on and so forth. And then if I wanted to update something, you would come into here, right click and say firmware, and you would go through the procedure and update everything. The repository for this, again, is separate from the repository for this. So the only way to get the firmware files into the Festo Automation Suite is to download it here, and it'll create its own repository. And then when you move out of here and go to the scan utility and scan for devices, you'll notice that you'll end up with the same thing. So there's a similar thing here. So the scan, there's our first compare. The Festo Field Device Tool is being replaced by the Automation Suite. Scan, whether the Festo Field Device stays around forever, I don't know. It's just, like I said, they're bringing all these packages into one to make it more user-friendly. And I'm doing this video so that the people that are familiar with the old stuff understand what the new stuff functionality is and how to use it and what the purpose is. So the biggest difference here is that if I want to do firmware here, I right click, go firmware, whereas over here, I come over here and everything is on the right hand side menu. So I have device details, click backwards, network settings, backwards, device name, backwards, firmware. It'll, hey, go out, and all you have to do is click on the cloud button, download it, and away you go. And if I do a reboot, there's also support for this. Is a fantastic feature. So you don't have to go looking for the manuals on the web. You click on the manual here. I'll download this manual and be able to open it. If I click on application notes, if there's anything available, I think there's something for one of these products has got some application notes, but the device descriptions, for example, like this on the left-hand side is a Profinet, and I could download this document and download the device description file, that kind of stuff for that particular thing. What else here? You've got, okay, so that's and this add to project here we'll come to later. So I'm just going to go back to where I was, the repositories, and continue. So that's one piece of software out of the way. And I'll leave it open just for the heck of it, but I think we're finished with this. So the Festo Field Device Tool is the scan over here. The next thing is in the repositories is Codesys. So as I said, they have embedded the Codesys environment into their software. And if I open up a piece of software, where is it here? Where is it? I didn't open it yet. Hang on. So open up Codesys 3.5.10 patch 4. I'm going to open up a project that's already been massaged a little bit here. You'll have to forgive my cluttered desktop. I'm a big desktop fan as far as organization goes. And we have this project here. So skip back and forth between these two here. So in Code Assist, Festo Automation Suite, we have a library repository, device repository. Again, click on this, you come to this to install libraries, and then device repository would be like, Profinet files, IODD files for IO-Link, Ethernet IP. Depends on your controller and everything for your master. Can't open files if you got a master, things like that. EtherCAT, XML files. In most of the newer stuff is part of packages, but you can install them separately, and so on and so forth. Okay, close it. I'm just going to close that now. In the Code Assist world, you have a tools menu, and you'll see that the library repository or the device repository are right here. So there's one difference. And you'll also notice that there's no menu system in the Festo Automation Suite, so that's very different. But the next thing here is under options, and I'll keep talking about Code Assist. So there are project settings and project environment, and then options. So in the Code Assist standalone, we have project settings, project environment, and options are over here. And smart coding. I always like to have these turned on here. I don't like the namespace, but this lists components immediately when typing. And if you've just installed the software, this will be default and this will not be on. I've already turned mine on, but you would have to basically come into here under options, go to smart coding, and make sure this is turned on. And you'll also see here that there's a few things that are missing. Their integration of the Code Assist is a work in progress, and they could have omitted it for a specific reason, or it's not something that they considered doing, things like that. So the document, I don't know what that's for, but obviously it looks like it's a print job. General, you can change the interface. So that's some things about Code Assist. Let's talk about saving your projects. Okay, it's a little bit like a Siemens, I guess because it's European. And when you save a project, like a Festo Automation Suite project, the name of the project that you've selected, it'll store that name, and basically it'll create a directory with that name in whatever directory you chose, and then within that will be many subdirectories and file names, as well as the directory, as well as the FSP name of the file. So I'll show you that right now. So let's just do I don't know if I can do something without anything, but let's just try here. Save as, hit the browse button, and I have a directory that is not very long. So I've got a work files, Festo Automation Suite, and I've got a couple of projects here. So I'm going to select this as the new project, and I'm going to call this YouTube Festo Automation Suite project. Okay, I'm going to hit save, and then I'll take you to the directory. So here's the Festo Automation Suite directory I'm in, and I just, like I said, saved it as YouTube underscore, so it created a directory, and then within the directory is the directory, the project name, and then as you add and build things, it adds more directories, subdirectories, file names, things like that. So keep the file name short and sweet, that it's in as far as the main thing goes, and then keep this project, of course, because when you're in here, the YouTube FAS is up here in the top left, so you want something user-friendly about it. The other thing to understand is that you have the Windows limit, the 255 character limit, which basically says that directory names, file names, extensions, that all count as a character, and you don't want to exceed that. Okay. If I come up to the Save menu here, I can just save, or I can just do a save as. Again, if I want to add some more detail, I can go to the information here. I can type in, click on edit, and type in, this was a project used to demo on YouTube. And I can, this will change the image as we add components and stuff like that, or you can use your own image, things like that. Hit the save button, and now it's saved permanently. If I come up the information here, it's always going to be there. Okay? So that's saving a project. What's next here? Okay, so we've done everything in here, I think. We have options about repositories. Oh, this is your default directory, so you can change this so that whenever you do a save as, it'll default to that directory. As soon as you go away, it's going to say, hey, you changed it, and it'll update it itself. We've already covered that. The new is the same thing. It's implicitly explained. And then we're back to here. So now we're on the home screen. Okay. I'm going to click over here on the right, because as a new user, you probably want to know where the help is. So this help, this question mark here, you have basically, I have installed, it'll do this as it installs different things. I've installed a CPX plugin, CMMT, the Codesys environment, and then there's the Festo Automation Suite. So if I click on this, you get your help. If I click on this, you get your help. If I click on this one, you get the CMMT help. And finally, you get the CPX plugin help. And you can search and do everything like you normally do in any software. Okay, on the home screen. The purpose of the home screen is to build a topology of your project. And this home screen is designed specifically for Festo equipment. So you can come into here, click on this plus button, come over here and drag. Let's say we wanted to add a C1 PLC and say add device, and it adds the device. Come down below it. Let's say I want to have a EtherCAT slave, because these are all EtherCAT now. I'm going to add a CMMT controller here. I'll do some more slave, remote I/O. We've got a CPX E-EC. And once you've added these devices, you can come over here and you can drag and drop the master to slave connection, which is mandatory to do the rest of your project. I'm just going to delete these real quick. Delete the device, delete the device, delete the device, la, da, da. Okay. Alternatively, you have the hardware connected to your system. Take this for example. If I go out and scan it, now, there'll be default addresses assigned to the hardware when you get them. You would come into here, change the network settings. Let's say that I'll just do this real temporary, 215 instead of 213, hit apply, hit the rescan. Now you have 215. I'm going to change that back before I forget. Hit apply, and you get the picture. So you scan the devices, you have a device present, you've added it, or you've modified the IP address to suit something that's on your network. And once you've done that, now I can click over here and say, hey, add this configuration to your project. And I'm going to show you here. It's just going to add this. This is one way of adding it. Adding the master. And you have to wait a little bit here. You get the device imported okay. If you go to the home screen now, you have this device. You can move this over here. For the sake of comparison, so this is an online device that we've added basically. I'm just going to add it offline, same thing. Now, if I double click, so I'm just going to save the project, just for the sake of saving. And double click on the offline. It opens up a tab at the top here, and you see here that it has the PLC and no hardware to the right of it. If I go to the actual device that was scanned online, double click it, you'll see here that it actually has a 4IOL, which is IO-Link master, and it brought the whole configuration in. So there's one true advantage, is that you have that. Another thing to note is that if I click up here where my mouse is and I drag, you can basically sorry, I had a bit of a blurb. I think sometimes it has a little bit of blurb with the software itself, but by the time you get this video, it'll probably be a newer version out. So you can basically have multiple windows within the one project open, and therefore you can see, I've got a couple screens on the go because you make too much money, and you can put these on multiple screens and span them and so on and so forth, and you can look at two devices at once. I'm just going to close this real quick. And if I hit the X button here, it'll close it. So this right here is the offline. I'm just going to right click, say delete. Don't need that anymore. What I can also do here is rename the device. Call it PLC 1, real unique. And double click on the device. And let's talk about Codesys now. Okay, so I have this Codesys project, which is the standalone version, not the Festo Automation Suite. And I've just changed the device because I've been playing with this a lot. And in order to establish communications, I would come into here, do a scan network. Sorry, my stupidity, I picked the wrong PLC, so I have to update the device with this here. I had the filter on. Wasn't paying attention, trying to do things too quick. Now that I have the proper PLC to match what I come in here, do a scan. It finds the device, you hit OK. Now we have a green light. I want to point out right off the bat that that is not what you do in the Festo Automation Suite. So if I move to the Festo Automation Suite, if I go to the Programming tab, I double click on the PLC, come into here, scan the network, click this. If I had created this offline and do this, it'll do the green like it does always, but this has no effect on where we really choose the path, which is this path right here. So the path to choose for any of your devices in the top left here. The only reason this is already populated is because we selected an offline device that we scanned. So you would come in here, you would select it, and then you say add device. Because it's already the same thing, it's not giving me that option. So click off. So this does not work in Festo Automation Suite. That's intentional. I don't know if they'll change it in the future, but I'm not a fortune teller. So going back to the Codesys standalone here, if I go to the CPX-E system here, come into here, do an actual configuration, do a scan. You'll see here it's kind of the same thing. I'll do apply. It's going to bring in everything that's in the system here. Shows you that you have the PLC and then a 4ILL. And I'm just going to save this right now. The Festo Automation Suite. Not this. Where is it here? Festo Automation Suite. On the parameterization, this is where you see the hardware. So you see that you have some parameters here. Click over here. You've got the typical parameters. Same thing here. And then you have system settings. If I'm in the Codesys environment, you have the same thing here. Over here we have the parameters for that. So it's a little bit different as far as the setup and arrangement goes, but the same end result, okay? And of course, if you want to use IO-Link for something, you have to turn it on so that the IO-Link is enabled. This is for the Class B IO-Link devices. Cycle time 0 means do the fastest, otherwise you specify a hard-coded and then read-only stuff, and I think the rest is self-explanatory. You've got this right here, and you've got the system settings. Then we move in, so that's the parameterization, that's where your hardware is, and then you have your programming environment, which if you go to this tree view here, you'll see that it's pretty different. It's missing the hardware, which this whole section right here is on the parameterization tab over here. That's the best I can compare it. So in the programming window, let's talk about that for a second. We have got a missing header here. So there is no device, nothing above the device. And that's where these different tabs come in. The device right there, like I said, double click there, that's going the same into here. You've got the same settings. I always like to come in here, do this, do that. This has to specify the task that the EtherCAT's in, otherwise you get in some random results. And I like to leave that so that the I/O is being updated while in stop mode. That way if you do a breakpoint or something, it's good. And then enable, this means that anything that's child related, if you have any understanding what I'm talking about, the child related stuff all inherits this automatically as far as the defaults go. All right, moving along here, we can right click and say add object, and you'll see here that when you right click, you are limited to but a few things here. You know, right click on different things, give you different results. If you go to the Codis environment, you'll see here you have plenty of results, but some are the same. And as I said before, there is no menu system in Codis. So what they've done here is they've grouped common things, and they've put this, and it's again related to where you click, I think. You have this drop down here, and you'll see that edit, view, project, build, and over here you've got edit, view, project, build. Can't leave this all open at the same time, but you get the drift. So the menus are kind of in this little thing here. I know that they call this top left thing a hamburger. This right here, we'll call it a drop-down menu. So you have all these different options, which are basically inherited from the Codis environment through, I guess, different drivers, DLLs, things like that. At this point, I'm going to jump to a different part of the thing. So I'm going to leave Codis for a minute and go back to the home screen. So hardware that I'm dealing with here. So I have borrowed some equipment from Festo, and I have the PLC over here on the left-hand side. This PLC has got 2 Ethernet ports here, and then it has an EtherCAT master. And then the left-hand side, you can't see over here, there's some Profinet, which I'm not going to talk about. EtherCAT leaves the EtherCAT master, goes to the import of the CPX-E, EC, so the EtherCAT module, and then leaves this port, goes to CMMT. Now, this configuration that's here right now is slightly different on my project, and this I/O that's to the right of this PLC is slightly different. Because I went and bought some extra stuff, and now I have them on the side. I don't have a picture to show, but you get the idea. EtherCAT master to import, output of Ethernet, EtherCAT slave to import of EtherCAT. And that's what I want to talk about next. So topology view. So if I come over to here, I can also scan over here. This is another way of scanning. So it gives you a little bit less information, but it's the same device. So we scanned up here using the scan tab over here before, and we selected the device, and then down in the right hand corner we did the add to project. So we did this add to project. I could come over here and do the same thing for CMMT and say add to project, or I could be over here in the scan, wait for it to scan, and come over to here, click and drag, and now I'm dragging in the project, online project for the CMMT-AS. And once it's done, I get the device imported. Now I have this access here, and I want to show you this. So keep an eye on this. We have the EtherCAT master, and part of the intention or concept behind including all software bundles into one is that it's supposed to do some work for you. So over here, I click here and I drag. It says initializing. Basically, I'm connecting a cable from the EtherCAT master to the slave. And now if I go back to the project, then you'll see here that it's added a configuration file. And if you go into it, double click, you'll see that you have the option to do some different things here. I can turn on, whatever DC for synchronization. But just, have an understanding that instead of having to come in here and say add device and getting the pop-up and going through the way that you would do a third party, this is how you would do a third party device. Clear add device, and it would add the device. Close. I'm just going to delete that. That's how you do third party stuff. But basically, it did all this for the Festo device that you simply added. And another important thing is there is the feature of auto increment. The auto increment in EtherCAT basically does the physical network. So as I said before, I'm leaving here, going to the EtherCAT module, and then going to the CMMT. So right now, I'm actually not really configured properly. So for the EtherCAT remote module, I can do one of two things. I can come through here and do the EtherCAT slave, come into here, add device, at which point I would have to double click, come in here, and on the right hand side start adding modules, whatever the configuration is. Say DO, drag it over. Let's say it's a DI module, come over here, drag this in, and build it until you're finished. And if I have to modify parameters, I would come in here, leave it switched on, come into here, modify this, modify the settings, do a save parameters, different things, and close it. I'm done. So now I want to connect the slave to the master. And if I go back to the PLC, you'll see here that, hey, it added it to the project as well. So it does a lot of work for you. It's a nice tool. What I want to point out, I always like to have distributed clocks on, is that I ordered it. I ordered the x-axis. I connected the x-axis first, and then I connected the EEC. It does that in order. This particular version of software does not have a right-click and then scan for devices, unfortunately. As far as I understand, they're supposed to come out with that in the new version in the new year, 2019. For now, it's done all manually. And right now, because it's all auto increment, then if we were to scan it, we'd actually be backwards. So to fix that, you click on the device and drag it, and you can move it up. See here, I just moved it up. It doesn't change the front picture here, but it changes the order in the project, and that's what counts. So that's another tip. And let's see if I can, so I'm just gonna save the project. And now, because I have a path here, if I didn't, I would click on this and then change the path to what I'm connecting, and then I would connect. And because I have nothing in there, I'm gonna write to the device. Hopefully I'm writing the right one. And it's gonna give me the typical stuff you get when you're downloading. Yes, I'm gonna download. I get my errors over here. If you hit the shift escape, it makes that go away or come in. It's a toggle. Escape. I'm going to start the project or hit F5. I'll come over here, hit F5. So F5 is on. So now it's running, and of course I can't make anything work, so it's not working. So let's figure out what that is here. what I want to point out here is that I did not configure the CPX EEC property. The configuration is invalid. And I'm going to show you a little trick here. So here's the trick. You'll notice that when I come over here and I do a scan, the only devices that are in my project here that I see is the X-axis, the CMMT, and the CPX PLC. These other devices are just other hardware that I have connected to the network. What we do not see is this CPX EEC. That's because if you look at the layout here, I have two ports here. Both of them are EtherCAT. And the way EtherCAT works is it's closing these ports and you can't get in. You have an option to activate EtherCAT or Ethernet over EtherCAT, EOE, but the PLC, in order to talk to this with the scan software that's embedded in the Festo maintenance tool, as well as the scan that's in Automation Suite here, this tool right here, this over here, and the same as this. In order to see it in there, this tool here uses UDP commands, and the UDP commands are not supported through the backplane of this PLC here on the EOE. So the trick here is to disconnect the EtherCAT ports and connect directly from your PC. Let's see if I have a picture here. Okay, so I'm going directly from my laptop or PC or whatever you have there, and the in port is on the top, the out port is on the bottom, and I'm going to connect directly to the out port. And then I'm going to cycle power to the CPX-E and power back up. So give me 1 second here to make that connection. So for the sake of showing you all the software, so I've connected. It's there. It is with the Festo Field Device tool. We're using Festo Automation Suite, so if I go here and I do a rescan, this button over here, the CPX EEC should come in. In order to work with it, we need to be on a network that is usable, so I'm going to come over here and do network settings and type in 192. It's a little finicky here. 192.168. 1 dot. What are we going to be here? 2. Let's go with 208. .255s. And say activate. New settings. Yes. Rescan it. And it's got the new address. I'm going to click add to project. I could. Or I come to here. I'll let it scan over here. It'll be the same thing over here. There it is there, CPX. Drag and drop. Device imported. At this point, I could go into it and connect because I'm still connected to this out port right here. And now I'm connected. And you can see here I have the ability to go in and modify parameters. I can come into here. I'm assuming I could force if I wanted to. Force all. Yeah. And you know, manipulate and play with the data and so on and so forth. So I'm going to disconnect. Say yes. But the idea here is that, see how I have a completely different configuration here? I'm going to disconnect this, save the project. I like to save a lot. New software. Okay, so now I'm going to select this line, hit delete. It removes it. I'm going to select this device here that I manually added, delete. I'm going to move this over so it's looking a little bit. I'm going to rename this to CPX E _1. Okay. And I'm going to drag this to this. Double click on the PLC now and open it up, and we'll see here that we have the old one and the new one. So there's the new one, there's the old one. I'm going to delete this manually because it crashed, I think, in the middle of it, and that's why it did what it did there. Okay, so I fixed the configuration and added the proper modules here, as you can see. And now we can move on. So I have a working EtherCAT system here. I disconnect, go offline. As I said before, I always like to turn distributed clock on for the devices. There's EOE, which I'm not going to use right now. Well, I could show EOE working basically. Put in a couple addresses here within your subnet. Let's go with 209. So that's for the CMMT. This one over here, EOE 192, 168, 1.210. Save. Connect and do a download. Start it up. The EOE has to be on a running EtherCAT master. And now if I open up a browser, let's see here, a browser, type in address here. And we have a website with the EOE working. So it's mailbox function, so on and so forth. And you know, we can do a variety of things in here. Go to Diagnostics. Nice feature. Information. And so on and so forth. So that's what the EOE does. The CMMT doesn't have a web server yet. So they use the EOE for some other things like the file transfer protocol for transferring information. Anyway, so we've got this up and working here, and I want to point out something else. So the CMMT, which we haven't really opened yet or looked at and discussed, I'm going to disconnect from the node. You'll notice here that I was connected over here. I'm going to double click on the axis. So you'll see here that I downloaded or scanned in the live image, and this is what was configured already. So I already configured all this previously. If you didn't configure it previously, you could come into the first startup here and just go step by step through this guide here. You select all your different components, hit the next button, and go on and so forth. And when you're finished, you just hit close. Okay, and then in the configuration files, depending on your voltage limit, you have to do the lower intermediate circuit voltage, because when you hook up the 120, there's no power factor correction, so on and so forth. See if my brain can scatter here. But basically, you go through and you configure everything here, your field bus settings. This is what I wanted to get to here. So I've shown you here that this master connection to the drive creates the axis configuration here. What I didn't show you is that when we added that, this right here is added to the project when you do that. And this is the default, it's point-to-point, which is for PLCs, PLC manufacturers that don't have soft motion capabilities. There's an option here to select soft motion. I just wanted to point out that when we do that, it modifies our master connection. and it'll switch out the point-to-point connection. And when I go to the master now, you'll see here that this doesn't say point-to-point anymore. It is a soft motion drive now. And you have the soft motion tabs like you would normally. That's all I wanted to point out. I'm not going to go further with this, but that's one thing I wanted to point out. So if I go back, it'll change that back. So I go back, and now we're back to the point-to-point. And when you do that, you have to basically reconfigure, because it's throwing in a blank from that point. See how the EOE is, everything is reset now. So I'm not going to bother putting the EOE in right now, but that's one thing I wanted to point out. So now let's go back to the axis here. And what I want to do here is, this axis is normally done with this software Festo configuration tool. So there is no plugin for this Festo configuration tool for CMMT, so the best thing I can do is compare it to a CMMP. So in the CMMP world, we have this, turn this dynamic help off here, but we basically have this change where you go through and you select your hardware here, and you know, you hit the next, you configure the motor, the axis, and so on and so forth. And then I'm going to cancel it, but basically you end up like this. That's the same thing as this right here in the Festo Automation Suite. Same idea, same concept, but a little more user-friendly interface. And then in the Festo configuration tool, we have some information here, application data. We have a different card. Well, one of the differences between CMMT and CMMP is that the CMMP has got a slot here where you can put in different field bus cards, whereas the drive here, CMMT, you buy it as a EtherCAT module or Ethernet IP module or Profinet, so on and so forth. And so there's a few extra things in here, but basically you come through here and all these settings, take for example the messages. So you have a target reach window, following error window. If you go into your access interface to monitoring, you'll have your following error, your target reach window, and a bunch more parameters. If you keep comparing the two, sorry, I can close this one now. Let's just hit the next button here. Keep going. There's closed loop settings. There's limit switch types. Those are all notched into this thing here. You have the record table, they call it on this one. You have the, what do they call it here? The record list over here. Record list, you come through here and you simply create a new record, start following the positions here. And keep going, then you keep adding, you can link records, so on and so forth. So the FCT software, the Festo configuration tool software, is embedded into the project under the axis of CMMT. And a couple other things, the CIA 402, there's no FHPP anymore. It's the point-to-point, everything's CIA 402. And that's about it. When you go online, you have the online tab here. All these are the online tab for commissioning. And when you're in the plugin over here, you have the Diagnostics tab and the Control tab, which I'll show you in a bit of here. So I'm going to close this now. So I can connect to the motor controller for commissioning purposes. And you get this mismatch here. I'm just going to write to the device and accept and connect. Now that I'm connected, I can see I have an error. So if I go to the Diagnostics tab, I can see all these errors here. Or if I'm on some other tab, I can come up here, come down to the show details. It'll take me there. I'm just going to acknowledge all. And if they don't come back, then that's all good. It's because we had cable's disconnected during the video here. And we've done all these things here. We're looking at this. We have an I/O state here. This will show us the status of the I/O. We've got an error log. It'll do an update here. So it shows you all these log files here. There's quite a few. So I've had this up and running for a while. You've got the ability to configure your error. What's going to happen when an error happens. Top categories. This is all explained in the help files. You can set up traces. And then additionally, you go to the control tab up here. And I want to run the drive. So I take over the control. That's taking the control over. I enable it. Of course, I have to have the hardwire. I go back to the hardwire. Where's the I/O state? So I have the control enable right here. And I have limit switches both on right here. And if these right here, the sign 1 A and B, the sign 0 A and B are the safe torque off signals, which is this connector right here. The X1C at the bottom down here is this right here. So this connector in the front, the limit switches right there, and you've got 24 volt supply power for the limit switches, and you've got a reference switch as well. So you get the status on that. And we basically have the access enabled. Also on the right hand side here, I'm just going to drag this over so you can see this a little bit better. We have a couple things that I like to turn on. So I'm going to turn on referencing status. I'm going to turn them all on except for this bit move, because these are useful tools when you're first commissioning. Hit apply. So it tells me MM power, not reference. It means that I haven't homed yet. The actual position tells me that I've got 123 volts for the main, 23 volts for the control voltage, temperature of the power output stage, and So we have all this nice information here. I'm going to hit start homing, and you're wondering, what will it do? Well, what did we parameterize? So if you go to axis, which we also set up in the first startup, you'll see here that we have method 1, hardware or negative hardware limit switch. Because this is a CIF02 drive, if you go to the CIF02 spec, look for method 1. This right here, method 1. This is defined in the CIF02 specification, and picture even agrees with what we have here. And that's what we're doing. So I'm just gonna, like everything you want to look for, the root analogy of the specification is in the CIF02 spec. So when I go to execute that, it's going to execute this. So go back. If I click on start homing, it's going to move. It's now executing. Make sure you get all the hardware out of the way so it doesn't crash into everything. And when it's finished executing, you'll see here, I am home now. It's been homed, and we're all good to go. Now I can come over here and I can jog the axis. You see here that the axis has moved to position 76. Now we're at 113. If I want to do a single step, which is basically relative moves, put in a 10 millimeter move, it's going to move at this velocity. Hit the plus, it's going to move 10 millimeters. If I hit the minus, it's going to move back. If I want to do an absolute position, let's type in 250. I'm going to say execute. It's going to move to 250 and stop at that velocity. And I won't do the closed loop parameters. I'm not going to do everything. Record list, go in there. If I type in this, hit execute, it's going to execute. And it's got a link to move number 2. So it went basically to 50 and then to 320. So I can do that again, 50 then 320. And that's commissioning for that. That's pretty straightforward, simple. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to force some I/O. So I have this device here, I/O mapping. If I expand all this, I'm going to go online here. So I'm online now. Close this, don't need that. Close that, don't need that. Yeah, I made some changes it wants me to update. And okay, so I'm going to force some I/O. So I'm on the remote I/O. So I'm on this device. I'm in here in the PLC, but I'm looking at the CPX EEC, and I have digital input 0 and 1, I think 2 and 3 as well, tied to digital input 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I turn this bit on, Control F7, or write values, it's going to write this value, and now it's being shown on, and the LED is turned on. And same thing goes for that one there. So that's not working here. If I want to go and force the, let's say I had something connected I/O link wise to this right here. Let's see what I can connect here. Hang on. So I'm going to click on this port right here and see if I can add something. Okay, so I'm going to connect a CPV valve terminal. I come into here, plug device. It's not like I've done this before. Do I have the CPV board? Yeah, I do. Plug the device. This is the plug. This is the device. I-link mapping. There it is there. Connect. Should say, do you want to download? Say yes. And now I'm running. We're in start mode. Go back here. Control F7. Turn it on, and my valves are on. And that's how simple I/O link is. So I'm just going to go back here for a second. So that's forcing I/O both on the main body here, which is any devices that are here. This is where you would force or monitor the I/O. And for remote I/O, you would be here in this area here. I've already showed you that if you want to add a device that's a third-party device, not a Festo, you would add the IODD or the description file, a device file, and then you come in here and add it to the master here. All right, so we've showed you the x-axis and commissioning of it. So now we know we can move all this around. But now I want to use the PLC to control. Just going to disconnect that. I want to use the PLC to control the x-axis, and let's talk about that. All right, so we'll go offline here. Disconnect. We're not connected to that, so we're offline from everything. And I'll just, I can leave that open. We're just going to work in here. And I'm going to add a, first thing I want to point out is the library manager. So if you double click on the library manager, when the controller adds the point-to-point, it adds these point-to-point libraries right here. And the base file is the one we want to look at. This is where all of our PLC open function blocks are, and Festo has created this library, so it looks similar to the PLC open blocks, but it's got an underscore Festo on the end of it all. And there's a double click. Ignore that. And it brings open the manual here. You'll see in the manual, there's no PowerPoint, but it basically walks you through how to install the library for different things, and then talks about all the different function blocks. I have this library offline. I'm just going to say no, but basically that's the guide for this. And I like to do all my function blocks themselves in CFC, so come up to here, add object, POU, CFC, type in a name for it, click on the add. It adds the POU like it normally does. Then I have the option here to drag in a box, and you'll see here we've got the point-to-point base. Go to the PLC open function blocks, and I can add it this way. If I have many libraries and I'm looking for something, I can simply come into here, type in something that's related. It'll search everything, and there is the point-to-point. There's the function block. So if I hit OK, it's going to add that. It's going to say, hey, do you want to call it this? I hit enter. It's going to automatically declare all this, and I hit OK. It'll add the variable, and so on and so forth. And you would continue to add blocks. It's underscore red because you're not finished configuring the block. That's because this axis here needs to config. What you connect to this axis here is the name of this. So if you click here on the red dot, just start typing X axis, and you'll see it comes up with the drop down. Double click, hit enter, and now we have a block that's all good. You can click this, drag it all up there, and simply come over here and continue to add the blocks. If you don't want to do the thing, you could hit the F2 button, brings it up. Let's type in home, for example. I'm going to do the home block now. When you hit the end and then hit the end, it'll open this up. Because I'm doing another one and saying, here, are you really that stupid or what? So I'm just going to call this reset instead. So power reset, and anyway, you get the idea. I'm just going to, sometimes it's easier to start it over. Do this, do that. It does the MC power. Hit the enter button. Auto declare it for yourself. And then you can drag and drop that like that, or you can click this. Let's see that we haven't connected anything. You can click this, hold down the control key, click that, right click, and then say connect selected pins. It'll connect it for you. Okay. And to go along with the function block library, if you go back to the library manager, you'll see here that there are visualizations. So for every function block, there is a visualization. It's a really quick, easy way of adding some controls to your project and getting something running and testing. So I'm going to right click, say add object, add visualization, select the defaults. It's going to add this visualization in the manager. Come into the visualization itself. I want to connect a visualization that's in the library to the existing function blocks. So you'll see here that I've got a couple options. So if I click on the Festo point-to-point CIF42, I have some things, but we're using this Festo point-to-point base. And you'll see here that all these blocks here are what we're looking for. So I have a home and a reset, for example, or a power. So I drag let it go, double click here. This is the tag that you're associating with. If you go this way here, it knows that there's my instance of that tag. Or if I come back over here, type in home or power, whatever it was here. There, it's MC power. Is it power? Yeah, it's power. Okay, so I click on that, hit OK, and now I'm connected to that. And keep adding the blocks that you want. Now, I have an offline project that I've already done this with. So I'm going to import all that into my project here. And I'll see if I can show you how to do the export and import into the project here. So here we have another project, and I've got some code I want. I want these files, the visualization, the routines, and stuff like that. Because of the structure of everything, I'm going to click over here, go up to Project, do Export, and you get this export menu here. I'm going to click outside of it so that nothing's collected. I'm going to unselect everything. Okay, and I'm not going to do this. I'm going to come through here and just do the individual items here. And then I'm going to say export. Always go with the standard spot here. Replace it. Now I'm going to go back into my original project, which is this one here. And I'm going to come in here, project, import, select the file, hit open. You see how I have nothing here? You have to click on, depending on where you click, you have different options. So because these were under the application, I have these options here. So I'm going to import everything. And then I'll rearrange some things here. So I hit OK, hit OK, hit OK. So it has brought in everything. And we've replaced some things here and there. And close this right here. Hit the save button. And now if I go into my access control, first thing you'll notice is that I took the declarations out of here because I like to declare things in a global variable list. That way other routines and stuff can get to it. So I have all my declarations here. I've got some additional things here. But basically the gist is that I have all my function blocks in here. I have my x-axis, and all my instances. And if I go to, I have my visualization here. And maybe I did not import that property, or I did. Hang on. So I just redid that import, but I only did the HMI. So if I double click here, I have all my tags here, and I'm just going to put this out of the way. It might be worth noting also that, if I want to detach this HMI here to look at, I can come over here, click this button, and it puts it into a separate screen here, or undocks it, or whichever way you want to look at it. And there's all my blocks here, which you guys can probably not see, but they're there nevertheless. And when I hit the X button, it puts it back in the menu here. So I'm going to push this out of the way. Actually, here's another thing, you have a properties and a toolbox over here. So if I want to check my reference tag for this, come into here, make sure the experts are on, and this particular thing here is linked to that tag. Now I want to get rid of that menu and move it over. I have this same thing here. I can move the toolbar out of the way if I want. I'll put this back now. I just wanted to show you. And F11, all the shortcut keys that are in the regular codices work in this. So I hit F11 and it builds the project here. Close this. I'm going to connect. Log in, download. We're online. Hit the start button. I'm going to go online with this controller just for the heck of it, the servo drive. That way we can have both open windows. And again, I could drag this top one to a new window. That way I could have both the drive and the PLC open at the same time in two different screens. So again, you would come up here and basically just going to move this down a little bit here. And then I am going to save the project. And I basically clicked up top and held the button down and dragged it away. And now I have the x-axis, so I could watch this drive while I'm watching this one. So I am going to come over to here. Fortunately, there's no modal thing where it takes one and puts it in front of the other. So I'm just going to move this over a little bit here. I have, where's my MC reset, jog, home. Looking for my reset. So I just clicked the reset, and now we've cleared the errors. Here, I'm just going to put this back so that click and drag back. And so we've reset the errors, turn the MC power on. Now we get the home. You'll see here that we're all good. This is all good over here. And this stays on. At any given time, I can read my position. I'll just leave that running. I can, there's some status stuff here. This right here, I can read status right here. I can jog the axis. It moved forward to 350. And I could jog it back. Where's the jog again? You see it changing over here? And basically you start playing with the drive. I mean, I can home the axis, put a 0 in here, home the axis. It's now moving to its home position. You see the axis is changing right here. You can zoom in a little bit. There's a 0 here. Maximize this here a little bit. Zoom out a little bit. Hopefully you guys can still see this in the YouTube video. But basically, let's say I've got a parameter here. I want to move execute, so I turn the home off. Execute this move, and it just moved. Of course, I got a general axis here because I made it move 100 miles an hour, and I got a following error here, and that's to prove a point. So I've lost by enable. I'm going to reset the drive. So I turn this off. I reset the drive. It's disabled. Turn this back off, back on. Now we're back enabled. There's no faults over here. And we keep going and do what we want to do. Change this to a smaller velocity here, and we'll probably be better off. There you go. So we did the move. We're at position 200, and we're all good. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'm going to disconnect right now, or I'll save the project. Maybe I'll put this with the YouTube video. And actually, I won't put it with the YouTube. But anyway, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I go offline, disconnect, and I'm going to go offline with this, disconnect. Sometimes it takes a while to disconnect because it's doing a synchronization of some sort. So I'm off. What else can I show you here? Another thing I wanted to show you is when you're parameterizing, you have device settings and so forth. Well, to the right of every field, you have this little thing right here. And you can come through here and select these. And let's say that you had, 10 down here. The orange says, hey, it's smaller than the recommended minimum. And if I don't like that, I can also select the default, for example, and it puts it back. It also tells you a little bit about this parameter here. So that's very important to understand. The other thing here is that there's a little button here you can click on to change from a more graphical view to a more, I don't know what you call it. It's just a different view. And you'll also notice that you have these little circles or half circles. They also are up on the top menu here. It basically means that if you make a change to this, you are going to have to reinitialize the device. If you make a change to this, you're going to have to restart the device. So if I didn't say it already, anything you do on this configuration here, if I go back to this view here, if I change this value right here, let's just connect and I'm going to show you something about the fact that anything you do on the drive when you're online is live. There's no apply button or something like that. Whatever you do happens immediately. So right now I have a 120 main, and the 120 main, if you do the conversion to the DC bus voltage, ends up being about 165, 169, 170 volts. And then we have this monitoring right here, which is also represented somewhere else. I just want to see here. I think it's on this page. Maybe it's not. Monitoring. It's monitoring functions, I think. Yeah, right here. It's the DC bus. They call it differently. It's two different things. It's immediate. So right now, my DC bus voltage is what? It is 171 volts. If I change this to 180, hit enter, I immediately get a fault. Under voltage immediate circuit. And if I try and clear it, it's not going to happen because my limit's too high. Go back to there. I can do an acknowledge all. It resets the fault. So that's another point to make about the fact that this is live. Let's go back to the home and go to here. So I'm just going to go offline with this. Click the home button. Save it. I've now gone into the PLC and I have this PLC. So I have this nice project and I want to change this project to a different PLC type. In the Codesys world, I would come through here, right click, go to update device, and I would pick a different PLC, like this one right here, for example. And I would say update device, and it would modify this project and so forth. In the Festo Automation Suite, that is not how we do it. In order to change that, you come to the parameterization here, come to here, and this right here is your C1. So you would come through here, and I'm not going to do it, but basically controller, you would click and drag over top, let it go, and it would basically update the PLC, and then you get a pop-up notification saying, hey, I'm changing, and then everything in your project would change. But if by doing that, I would blow away a whole bunch of stuff, so I'm not going to do that. And I think that basically concludes a general comparison to all the software, some general configuration, and so forth. So I hope this helps a little bit as a starter for the new users out there, and enjoy the new platform. Thanks and have a great day. This is me signing off and saying A for Canada.